Yes, mate, so how's it going? My name's Lee, and welcome back to the FPL Punk YouTube channel, where we try to dominate FPL one game week at a time. In this video, we'll run for my team selection for Game Week 3, and then take a look at some potential transfer ideas if the Cole Palmer injury ends up becoming a long-term issue. Please subscribe to the channel down below if you are new. Anyway, let's rock and roll.
Get strong.
First up, we've got the goalkeeper and the defence. So I'm recording this at half-time of the Arsenal-Leeds game where Arsenal are winning 2-0. So I know that Spurs have kept 2 clean sheets in a row up against Burnley and Man City. This didn't come as any kind of surprise. Like I spoke about it in my last team selection video of how these Spurs players could do relatively well against that Man City team because they have done well against them in the past. So it was nice to see them do well. I didn't start Vicario and Van de Ven. They were both on the bench for me, so I had Dubravka and Estev. They obviously still kept a clean sheet and brought me points in anyway, so I was probably maybe 2 or 3 points worse off starting the Burnley guys over Vicario and Van de Ven. It is what it is. It was a 50-50 for me, like it was quite close. I went with the fixture that I felt Burnley had the better fixture. They was at home playing against a team that they've done well against in the past, so that's one of those, and I'm happy starting them this week. I think Bournemouth have looked pretty good. Semenyo in particular has looked pretty good. Like he's someone that I could consider in the near future. But for this fixture in particular, it's pretty obvious that from my point of view, like being a Man United fan, like I'm not gonna play Dubravka and Estev, who have got Man United away. So like I'm gonna go for Vicario on Porro. I think the Spurs players and the Spurs defense, people are realizing now that it is a good, solid, maybe medium term selection now. I'm really happy that I jumped on this for game week 1. I think people are going to start coming to it now and start flooding to it with my triple up already. Like I feel like I'm kind of one step ahead of the curve. Really happy I went for the triple up, even though I do think Van de Ven is still made of he's like a Papa Domino, do you know what I mean? Like he just breaks under the slightest kind of slightest bit of pressure and stress. So I do feel like Van de Ven is one of the worst options just because he's just so unreliable in terms of fitness. Like I think if you can get to a Romero, Porro, Vicario, I'd probably do that instead of getting Van de Ven, to be honest. My other defenders, I'm really happy that I started with Dorgu. I haven't seen the Man United Fulham game yet because I'm obviously recording this on the Saturday. I think he's a beast. I think he's going to cause Burnley a lot of problems here. I just think he's so powerful, so attacking. He's missing that little bit of end product quality. He's still only 20, 21, 22, something like that. So he's got age on his side. I feel like he gets better every single time I watch him. And again, I'm really happy that I started him. I think people are realising, particularly after the Arsenal game, how attacking Dorgu actually is. So really glad I've got him. And I think people will start to realise that over the next couple of weeks and maybe start flooding towards Dorgu, but just really happy that I do have him. Last but not least, we've got Nico Williams, and a weird one because I'm kind of happy that I own him because against West Ham look absolutely horrific. Like I watched maybe an hour of the Chelsea-West Ham game, and as a non-João Pedro owner, I just couldn't cope anymore and just had to rage quit. I just couldn't cope anymore. It was just driving me mad, particularly when Cole Palmer could have been in and amongst that and just absolutely ripped them apart. So more of a frustrating watch more than anything, but West Ham just fell to absolute bits. Like I was watching the pre-game show and they're interviewing West Ham fans and they're all kind of upbeat and positive, and I just think they're so volatile and toxic that it doesn't surprise me that it kind of turned that way. That's just kind of the way they are, so I don't understand it. So the reason why I'm kind of happy but sad at the same time, the fact that Nico Williams have got West Ham, is that there's been rumours that Nuno Espirito Santo has fell out with the owner, and he might have to leave or he might get sacked or something like that. And if that's the case, they're potentially looking at Ange Postecoglou, and I absolutely hate that from a defensive point of view. Like I think if that happens, I might watch a couple of games, see how they get on, but that's kind of like immediate action where Nottingham Forest defenders or players just in general might have to get sold. So keep my eye on that one. It's not something I want to happen. I think Nuno's doing a great job, and they should stick with him. And as long as he stays in charge, I'm going to keep Nico Williams. But this is a great fixture, to be fair. I think they'll do well in this. I think if you've got your Chris Wood, your Milinkovic, Murillo, Anderson as well. If you've got like more of like a rogue shout, like a Gibbs White, I'd play them all because I think they'll do really well against West Ham. Let's move on to the midfield. Next up, we've got the midfielders, and this is the same as last week, except the only difference is that Cole Palmer went off in the warm-up against West Ham, and he's injured, and he's yellow flagged. He's got a potential groin injury. Hopefully, we get some more news in during this midweek. If it looks like he is going to be out for maybe a week or two, it is the international break after game week 3, so whether you could maybe bench him for a week and kind of work things around, I don't love that as much because, as you can see, like, I don't have the strongest of benches. So like if Palmer didn't play, I'd probably have to play Van der Ven, and then it's down to kind of bare bones of a Stev and Mark Gu. So I really don't like that. Still like Reinders. I expected this. Like this is what's going to happen. I think he'll go maybe 2 or 3 games without doing anything now, but then he'll come back and with the goods. He's only 5.5 million. Like, I'm not expecting him to poke trees every single week. He's got his goal and assist in game week 1. He blanked in game week 2. It wouldn't surprise me if he got an assist or a goal in game week 3. And I think he'll just tick along like that over the course of the season. I think if you went for him, I didn't recommend people to go and do it last week, and I still don't recommend them to do it now. I think whoever you started with, just stick with it. Because I think all players are going to kind of go through these peaks and troughs. And I think if you've got the likes of Anderson, or some of those other budget guys, I think if you start with someone like Declan Rice, he's got 2 assists in 2 games now. Like, he was someone that I was really looking at. I actually had Rodri in my game week 1 team, and I moved things around to get Rodgers instead. But if I stuck with that 6.5 million player, it probably would have gone to Declan Rice instead, because I liked the idea of having that kind of long-term, tick-along type player, and with him being on set pieces and all this. But anyway, I didn't do that in the end. I've obviously still got Mo Salah. I think this is a really tough game. I think it'll be a really tight game. I can see Arsenal winning it, you know. I don't know what it is. I just think Liverpool don't look as good defensively. And I think a lot of their success last season was built on this solid defence where they weren't conceding a lot of goals and a lot of chances. Arsenal at home are good. Solid team all round. They've just signed Eze as well, which I absolutely love. Be interesting to see which way it goes, like whether he adopts him in that kind of left wing role and keeps him on the left wing, a bit like Grealish did for City, and just completely nullifies him as a threat and a creative player. Or he kind of lets him do what he wants and just drift in from that left wing. I think if he lets him drift and lets him create, then I think it could be really special for Arsenal this season. I'm probably a little bit worried that he might get nullified, and a bit like Joe Cole did under Mourinho, Jack Grealish did under Pep, Eze might be the same under Arteta, where he gets put on the left wing, gets kind of strict instructions to stay out there and not be as creative and let him float around as much as he normally does. Remains to be seen how he is deployed, but I just hope he gets to play football and just lets him just be free and just let him create and just lets Eze be Eze, really. You can see I've got the captaincy on Bruno this week. It just makes sense to me. I think if you've got the likes of, there aren't many better options in my opinion. I think Salah's always the go-to. So if you don't have anyone else or you don't feel confident, Salah's always the easy choice. I think I'd probably prefer Haaland over Bruno. But Bruno's obviously got the better fixture. He's playing a little bit deeper. It'd be interesting to see how we do line up. But he's still on set pieces, still on penalties. I still think he'll get involved. I just still think he's incredible. So I've got no issues captaining Bruno in this game week. I could maybe even go for a cheeky Dorgu punt on captaincy as well, where I think we'll keep a clean sheet. If he gets an attacking return as well, like, his points are just going to skyrocket and go through the roof. Last but not least, in the midfield, we've got Morgan Rogers. Again, another disappointing Aston Villa display up against Brentford, who were terrible in game week 1. So 2 back-to-back poor fixtures or poor results for Aston Villa, and it's the same for one of my strikers in a minute that I'll discuss. They're just not clicking, and I don't know what it is. Really disappointing to say. Like I thought he'd start the season quite well. I know he picked up the injury in pre-season. I just thought he'd bounce back and just do really well. Like, he hasn't. I'm still going to stick with him for now. I don't see the point in kind of making knee-jerk decisions based off a couple of bad results. Like, he's still a good player, like he's still a good asset. They've still got some good games coming up. I do think Crystal Palace is a tough game. But they are at home. Could they bounce back at Villa Park? I might give it one more week, see how he is during the international break, and then maybe I might move him on for game week 4, game week 5. Let's move on to the forwards. Last but not least, we've got the forwards. Obviously, I've kind of spoke about Aston Villa, but kind of what I said for Morgan Rogers, you can just regurgitate that for Ollie Watkins. Just really poor. I haven't seen any of the highlights or looked at any of the stats from today, but from a result point of view, they lost. Just disappointing from that way. Just seeing how Watkins started in pre-season, when he was one of the most informed players during pre-season, I could just thought he'd kick on a little bit and just do really well, and it hasn't worked out so far. Still willing to give it a little bit more time, because Ollie Watkins has always been a bit like this, and then he might go and score a couple of goals against Crystal Palace and everything's kind of hunky-dory and kind of back to normal. But moving on to Crystal Palace, where we've got Mateta, I actually really like him as an option. I think if you've got most of the players, like I bet if you look, like, put it into these models and you've got Ollie Watkins, I bet he tells you to take it down to Mateta, because I just think he's that good. He scored in midweek in the Europa qualifying game. Did play 90 minutes, which I didn't love. Just seeing the way Aston Villa play, just disappointing, a bit meh. Could Mateta do something in this game? I think he could. I think he's a beast. I still really like him as an option, particularly those kind of up until maybe game week 6, where I can't remember exactly where they play Liverpool, game week 6 or game week 7. I still think he's a great option up until that point, and then I might start thinking about selling him at Mateta from that point on. But overall, still pretty happy with my forward line. I'm just a bit disappointed more than anything, because they're just not getting the goals as of right now. If it looks like Palmer is going to be out kind of for the next few weeks, then I might have to think about something. I am going to take a look at some options now. So if Cole Palmer is out in kind of the medium to long term, I think if he's only out for game week 3, you could maybe bench him and move things around to make it work, so you've got him back for game week 4 and onwards. For me, there's maybe 2 or 3 options. I mean, like the last option is just to keep him, just kind of deal with it and just kind of see how it goes on a week-by-week basis. Something that I do like the idea of is getting Haaland, but the only way that I can do it involves Palmer and Watkins. So it would require taking Palmer to a 5.4 million or less player, and there aren't too many out there. I mean, if he had 5.5, then that would be perfect, but Haaland did go up by 0.1, which then only gives me 5.4 in the bank. So I'm left with the likes of Belabor, Douglas Luiz, Dewsbury Hall. They're all a bit kind of meh kind of players. Like, I might be better going down to a 4.5, giving myself extra money to upgrade someone else. But I do like the idea of getting Haaland. I think my idea was to get Haaland around game week 5, 6 or 7 anyway. Like, I forget which game week they play Burnley, so this would just be accelerating the plan. The only issue is that Watkins has got some good games in the meantime. So if I didn't want to sell Watkins or try and get Haaland in, like the other option would be option 2, is just sell Palmer and just go and get one of the kind of mid-range kind of midfielders. And I've put a few in here, but I have still missed a few out. I could even go down to like a Saka, that's only 0.5 million less. I just don't love Arsenal's fixtures. Saka has just scored against Leeds just before half-time. Or the other option was to look at a play between 7 and 8.5 million. And like I said, I've put a few down there. Semenyo, Bournemouth, they've got good fixtures for a while now, and he does look pretty good. Could have gone and get a Semenyo instead. Could have gone for Nancy Gordon, who looks like he's playing number 9 in a Newcastle team. I've got a couple good fixtures now, and he's only 7.5. I actually really like that one. Another one is Gibbs White, who have got West Ham, Burnley, and a couple other decent games over the next few. I think that's something that could be a bit of a sneaky one. Something that feels a little bit more short-term is looking at a Man United midfielders double up with my Bruno Fernandes, of looking like a Brian Mbeumo or Matthias Cunha. I think out of those two, it would probably be Brian Mbeumo over Matthias Cunha. I think Cunha's more of an all-round player, and Mbeumo's getting behind, direct, get shots away. Like, he looks so dangerous against Arsenal, and I think he looked dangerous against Fulham in game week 2, and they're both 8 million. That's something I could think about, but that just feels a little bit more short-term, where we've got Burnley in game week 3. We've got Man City in game week 4, I believe, so that feels a little bit more short-term. Florian Wirtz has got Arsenal and hasn't looked great so far, so that feels a little bit risky. But then after that, They've got Burnley coming up as well, and they've got some other good games in there as well. So I think if I am going to get someone, it'd probably be either Semenyo, Anthony Gordon, or Gibbs White. I do quite like some of those. But if it looks like Palmer's only going to be out in the short term, I might just keep him and just kind of ride the wave and just kind of see what happens. What's your plan for Cole Palmer? Leave a comment down below. Right, mates, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. So today we looked at my team selection for Game Week 3 and looked at some potential transfer ideas if there's any issues with Cole Palmer in the medium to long term. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment down below. Have a good day. Peace and love.